Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're tuned into India Tonight with me, Savita Karir. Our top story, well, the US President Donald Trump has said that he'd had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In fact, both the leaders talked about beginning negotiations to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, he's written on X that he had a conversation with Donald Trump to ensure an end to the Russian aggression and ensure lasting and reliable peace in the region. And European leaders, however, are apprehensive of the peace deal. And in fact, European Union's foreign policy chief has now said that both Europe and Ukraine, they need to be involved in the agreement for that peace deal to work. To discuss the implications of this story that's currently moving and so many developments are currently happening, I'm now joined by Nandan Unnikrishnan, Distinguished Fellow at ORF. Thank you very much, Mr. Unnikrishnan, for joining us here on ET Now. Now, Vladimir Putin was ostracized politically for 3 years after that war, but now it seems he finds himself negotiating directly with the White House, especially since the Trump administration has been voted to power. So who do you think has the leverage here? Is this does the leverage lie with Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin?
Well, one is that I don't think Vladimir Putin was ostracized. After all, if you say that the Indian Prime Minister going to Moscow to meet him means that Vladimir Putin is ostracized, that would be rather strange, no? The West did not talk to him. And now, after 3 years of the war, you have a new leadership in the United States, which has decided that it wants to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. I think, in a sense, I don't think the leverage was with Putin or with Trump, but I think part of the reason the West wants to talk to, or at least Trump wants to talk to Putin, is because the initiative in the war with Ukraine currently is in Russia's hands. They seem to be doing better.
All right. So, Mr. Unnikrishnan, what are the options before Volodymyr Zelensky and Europe? Because they are saying that, the whole of Europe has to be involved for a peace deal to actually work between Ukraine and Russia. And has Russia already succeeded in its goal of teaching Ukraine a lesson for its NATO ambitions? What do you make of that?
Well, I think the options in front of Zelensky are not great. Right now, the conversation is directly between the United States and Russia. So I don't know what the details of the conversation are, but I think that Europe and Ukraine may be brought into the conversation at a later stage, by which time the basic framework and the parameters of discussions would have been decided between Moscow and Washington. So for now, Europe and Ukraine don't have much say in the matter.
All right. So what could be the key sticking points in negotiations with Trump ahead of their meeting?
Well, some of the major points have already been enunciated by the US Secretary of Defense. And the points that he has made roughly coincide with the major demands made by some of the major demands made by the Russians. If there are sticking points, then one would, of course, be about the relationship, the security relationship between Ukraine and the West. That is not entirely clear at this point, although the Americans have said that they would not be sending any troops into Ukraine. The second sticking point could be what happens to the territories that Russia claims are part of its territory, but which are being held currently by the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians obviously would not want to give it up without getting something in return. So there will be, I suppose, serious discussion on that. But as Trump said, the negotiations are now going to start. So it is still early days. we have to see what the two delegations, when they start talking, what points they put on the table.
Right. So, one final question before we let you go. Now, policy continuity is clearly not America's biggest strength, as has been seen by the several flip flops that have been done by the Trump administration. So, what are some of the lessons here for the world, as some may be accusing Trump of betraying Ukraine now, which was very much seemingly a priority of the Biden administration earlier?
Well, I don't think this can be constituted as a betrayal of Ukraine, for the simple reason that even if Biden had won the election, maybe he would have continued the war for another 6 months. But after that, you would have had more or less the same attempt to negotiate peace. Yes, it would have been a bit more complicated in the sense that Biden's starting position may have been a little harsher or more rigid than Trump's. But as I said, these are early days of negotiation. Nothing has been agreed upon. There has been a broad outline of some of the issues to be discussed, and that's just about it. So I think it's early to predetermine what the outcome of the negotiations will be. But the lesson for everyone is that internal domestic politics in the United States can have major outcomes on international affairs. So everyone needs to develop their own strengths. Everyone needs to have their own exit policies in whatever problems they face.
All right, Mr. Krishnan, thank you very much for joining us. Yes, indeed, these are just early talks that Vladimir Putin has had with Donald Trump, and of course Volodymyr Zelensky has had with Donald Trump. We'll have to see how the White House's policy on putting an end to that war really develops, and that's something that we will be tracking very closely over the next few days. But thank you very much once again for joining us here on ET Now. Ladies and gentlemen, time now for us to skip.